If you were to guess, when a newborn baby is in the absolute highest danger of overheating, your mind probably goes straight to, like, the middle of a sweltering July heat wave.
Right, yeah, that's the classic visual.
Yeah. You picture this blazing sun, a stifling room, all that humidity. I mean, it just feels like basic common sense, right?
It does. I mean, the visual of a summer heat wave is terrifying for any new parent. But the clinical data actually point somewhere entirely different.
Which is wild.
It really is. The risk of SID, sudden infant death syndrome, linked to overheating, it actually spikes in the dead of winter.
See, that is just a terrifying paradox. It completely flips our intuition upside down.
Totally.
And I think it proves that when it comes to newborn safety, our most deeply ingrained gut instincts are they're often completely wrong.
Yeah, because we project our own feelings onto the baby.
Exactly. Because parents are so biologically hardwired to protect these fragile newborns from the cold, so when the temperature drops outside, they massively overcompensate inside.
Right, they crank up the thermostat.
They crank it up, they pile on the heavy fleece blankets, and just, unwittingly, they create a highly dangerous sleep environment.
Our own protective instincts basically become the exogenous trigger for the exact thing we're terrified of. We end up creating this microclimate of intense heat around the infant because we're taking our adult sensation of being chilly and applying it to a completely different biological organism.
Which is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today. If you're listening to this, you are probably navigating the incredibly overwhelming, heavily marketed, and frankly deeply contradictory world of newborn sleep safety and baby essentials.
Oh, it's a lot. The registry checklists alone.
They make it look like you're outfitting a small space station.
They really do.
So today we're taking a massive stack of sources to act as your ultimate shortcut. We want to figure out what actually keeps the baby safe and comfortable, cutting through all that aesthetic marketing and registry bloat.
And we have some really solid data to back this up.
We do. We've pulled strict medical guidelines straight from the AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics. We're looking at hard-hitting product investigations from Momivation into the hidden chemistry of baby mattresses.
Which is fascinating, by the way.
Mind-blowing. We also have detailed fabric science breakdowns from bedding manufacturers like Joey and Joan. And then, to ground all this pristine medical theory in actual reality, we're tapping into a Reddit thread of veteran parents.
The real experts.
Right. The ones who are aggressively de-influencing first-time moms and dads.
Well, the consumer landscape in the baby industry is notoriously murky. I mean, it thrives on parental anxiety.
It totally does.
But once you look past all the slick marketing and just focus on the underlying survival biology and, the simple physics of safe sleep, the solutions become surprisingly straightforward.
Okay, so if we're building a safe sleep environment from the ground up, my mind goes to the literal foundation, like the mattress.
Right, the physical surface.
Yeah, and the AAP guidelines, they are incredibly strict about what the baby rests on.
Very strict. The mandate is that the surface has to be firm, flat, and non-inclined. And when the AAP says flat, they really mean flat. Anything with an incline over 10 degrees is considered a fatal hazard.
Wow, just 10 degrees. That's barely anything.
Barely anything. But a newborn lacks the neck strength and the gross motor skills to protect their own airway. So if they're sleeping in an inclined rocker or a propped-up lounger, their head is disproportionately heavy.
So it just slumps forward.
Exactly, chin to chest, and that silently cuts off their oxygen supply.
And they also emphasize a zero-tolerance policy for soft bedding, no bumper pads, no loose blankets, and they specifically call out weighted swaddles as a major hazard.
Yeah, any soft object or extra weight introduces an immediate risk of airway obstruction or chest compression. The sleep surface just has to be pristine, clean, and firm.
Okay, so I understand the firm and flat rule. That makes sense. But wait, let me unpack this other thing, because I was looking at these new quote-unquote breathable crib mattresses.
The breathable ones, yes.
The marketing is incredibly persuasive. They make it sound like you're buying an insurance policy against SIS because air can allegedly just, flow right through the core of the mattress. It sounds amazing.
It sounds perfect in theory. But when you introduce the messy reality of human biology, it completely falls apart.
How so?
Well, to make a mattress completely air permeable, Manufacturers inherently have to remove the waterproofing layer.
Wait, hold on. If there's no waterproof barrier, what happens to all the spit up and the drool and the sweat and the inevitable diaper blowouts?
Yeah, all of those biological fluids seep directly down into the core of the mattress.
Oh, gross. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. What are those breathable cores even made of?
So manufacturers often use cellulosic fibers. And the marketing usually rebrands this as like reconstituted wood pulp to make it sound very organic and natural.
Right, wood pulp sounds so earthy.
Exactly. But in reality, it's a form of rayon. And to turn wood into a soft fiber, it has to undergo a highly toxic chemical process. They often use carbon disulfide to melt the pulp down and extrude it into threads.
Wow.
So you're basically left with this highly absorbent synthetic sponge.
Okay, let me get this straight. Parents are buying these expensive, permeable mattresses thinking they're protecting their baby from asides.
Right.
But they're potentially trading that fear for a black mold reality just because the marketing sounds good. Because there's no waterproofing, they're letting biological waste soak into a synthetic sponge inside a warm nursery.
Yeah, they're basically cultivating a black mold and bacteria garden right underneath their sleeping child.
That is horrifying.
It is. And the investigation from Momovation highlighted this exact danger. The intention is safety, but the mechanical reality creates a severe respiratory and health hazard.
So what's the safe alternative?
You want to look for a breathable cover that sits over a fully waterproofed core. And for the waterproofing itself, you really want to avoid toxic chemical sprays. The safest options out there rely on food-grade sugarcane plastic.
Sugarcane plastic?
Yeah, it completely stops fluids from penetrating, it doesn't off-gas any harmful chemicals, and it prevents that internal microgarden from ever taking root.
Okay, so the mattress itself has to be waterproof and firm. But what about the sheet we stretch over it? Because the sources pointed out that buying sheets specifically for bassinets is like a massive consumer blind spot.
Oh, bassinet sheets are a huge issue. See, crib mattresses are heavily regulated by federal safety standards. They have to adhere to exact dimensions. Bassinet pads, though, are essentially the Wild West.
The Wild West of baby gear.
Literally. They vary wildly in size and shape depending on the brand.
And the fatal flaw parents make is only looking at the length and the width on the packaging, right? They completely ignore the depth.
Depth is the critical variable. A bassinet pad is notoriously thin. I mean, sometimes it's barely an inch of flimsy foam. If a parent buys a fitted sheet that's engineered with a deep pocket, meant for a 3-inch mattress, and they try to stretch it over a 1-inch pad,
There's going to be so much dangerous slack.
Exactly. And as the baby wiggles and kicks throughout the night, that loose fabric bunches up around their face, which creates an immediate suffocation hazard.
So how do we prevent that slack? Like, what should we actually be looking for on the label when we buy these?
You want to look for 2 non-negotiable terms: full surround elastic and pre-shrunk cotton.
Okay, full surround elastic, meaning what?
Meaning the tension grips the entire 360-degree perimeter of the mattress, not just the 4 corners.
Got it. And the pre-shrunk factor.
That is what prevents a mechanical failure known as the taco effect.
Yes, I saw this in the sources, and the physics of it are just wild. So let's say I buy a high-quality organic cotton sheet. It fits perfectly right out of the box.
Right.
But babies are messy. So the first time there's a diaper blowout, I throw that sheet into a heavy-duty hot water wash to sanitize it. What actually happens to that perfect fit?
Well, if the cotton hasn't been pre-shrunk, the hot water causes the fibers to contract. So now, your perfectly fitted sheet is significantly smaller.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And when you force that shrunken sheet back onto that flimsy 1-inch bassinet pad, it acts like a tension wire. It physically bows the mattress upward on the sides.
Right, it turns the flat surface into a concave taco shape.
Exactly.
Which completely ruins the AAP mandate for a flat surface. I mean, I'm visualizing this, and if the mattress is bowed, the baby is just going to naturally roll onto their side or their stomach directly into the center trough of that taco.
Causing a massive entrapment and suffocation risk. And all of it created by accident, simply by washing a sheet.
Wow.
This is why ensuring the fabric is pre-shrunk is literally just as important as the mattress itself.
Okay, so the physical bed is secure, it's flat, it's waterproofed, and the sheet is locked in with full surround elastic. My mind immediately goes to the room itself, which brings us right back to the mechanics of that winter overheating paradox we started with.
Right, the air above the bed. The clinical consensus across the board is that the ideal ambient room temperature for infant sleep is between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit.
Honestly, as an adult, sitting around in a t-shirt, 68 degrees feels distinctly chilly, like I'd be reaching for a sweater.
And that's exactly where parents get into trouble. We have to disconnect adult comfort from infant physiology.
How are they different?
Babies possess a much higher proportion of metabolically active brown fat. This allows them to generate body heat very rapidly. However, their primary cooling mechanism, their sweat glands, are severely underdeveloped.
So they can't sweat to cool down efficiently.
Exactly.
So if they can't sweat, how does their body dump all that excess heat?
They rely entirely on the massive surface area of their head. A baby's head is disproportionately large compared to their body, and it acts as their primary biological radiator. That's the only place the excess heat can easily escape.
Which completely explains why every medical guideline screams at you to never, ever put a hat on a sleeping baby indoors.
Yes. Putting a cute knit cap on an infant inside a 70-degree house is literally capping their biological radiator. The heat generated by their brown fat has nowhere to go but back into their core.
Leading to rapid overheating.
Exactly.
And this brings up something that trips up so many new parents: the freezing cold hands and feet. You check on your baby in the middle of the night, you touch their tiny toes, and they feel like actual ice cubes. Every instinct in your body tells you to pile a fleece blanket on them. Why are their hands freezing if they're actually warm?
It's an evolutionary survival mechanism called vasoconstriction.
Vasoconstriction.
Right. An infant's circulatory system is immature. The body's absolute priority is protecting the core vital organs: the brain, the heart, the lungs.
The essentials.
Yeah. So to ensure those organs stay at the optimal temperature, the nervous system actively pulls warm blood away from the extremities. It narrows the blood vessels in the arms and legs to keep the heat trapped in the chest.
Wait, so touching their tiny toes to see if they need a blanket is basically like checking a car's engine temperature by feeling the tires. You're going to get a false negative every single time.
That is a phenomenal analogy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The extremities will almost always feel cold. The golden rule for parents is the neck check.
The neck check.
You gauge their true temperature by placing 2 fingers on the back of their neck or flat on their chest. If the skin feels warm and dry, the baby is perfectly comfortable. If it feels clammy or sweaty, they are in danger of overheating, and you need to strip away a layer immediately.
Okay, so let's talk about proactive cooling. Say you are in a summer heat wave and you don't have perfect central air conditioning. The sources provided some really smart mechanical ways to manage room temperature.
The key is preventing the heat from entering the room in the first place.
Right.
You want to use blackout curtains, but the critical detail is closing them early in the morning.
You can't wait until the afternoon.
Right. You cannot wait until the afternoon sun is already baking the room through the glass, because by then, the radiant heat is already trapped inside.
And what about fans? Because, I mean, moving air feels great, but there is a major safety caveat when it comes to infants, right?
A huge caveat. You absolutely want to use a fan to promote evaporative cooling in the room. But you must never aim the fan directly at the baby's face.
Why not?
A direct, constant stream of moving air can actually disrupt a newborn's delicate breathing rhythm. The safe tactic is to point the fan at a wall or the ceiling to circulate the ambient air indirectly.
Oh, that makes sense. And one trick from the sources I loved was placing a damp cloth draped over a bowl of ice water right behind the fan.
Yes.
It essentially acts as a DIY air conditioning unit, cooling the air molecules as they get pulled through the blades.
It's just simple thermodynamics that lower the room temperature without blasting the infant with a harsh draft.
Okay, so knowing that managing their core temperature is literally a matter of life and death, the obvious next question is, how exactly should we dress them?
The general expert consensus is 1 more layer than you are wearing to be comfortable.
But the material of that layer changes everything. Which brings us to the great fabric wars. Let's start with TOG ratings.
TOG stands for Thermal Overall Grade. It's an objective, laboratory-tested measurement of a fabric's thermal insulation, basically how much heat it traps.
Got it.
A 0.2 TOG is an ultra-lightweight summer layer meant for warm rooms. On the opposite end, a 3.5 TOG is the equivalent of a heavy winter parka.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that should only be used in freezing environments.
So you match the sleep sack's TOG to your thermometer, but underneath the sleep sack, you have the actual bed sheets. I read the bedding data, and here's where it gets really interesting. I was genuinely shocked by the thread count statistics.
It surprises a lot of people.
Because as an adult, I have been totally conditioned by marketing to think a higher thread count means ultimate luxury. Give me the 800 thread count Egyptian cotton. But for a baby in the summer, a high thread count is basically just a premium heat trap, right?
Absolutely. For an adult in a controlled climate, it feels luxurious. But thread count simply measures how many individual threads are packed into a single square inch of fabric.
Right.
So a high thread count inherently demands a highly dense, tight weave, and a dense weave blocks airflow.
So the body heat just gets trapped under the sheet?
Exactly the opposite of what we want. You want an open structure where air can freely circulate. A 200 count percale or a loosely woven muslin breathes infinitely better than a dense 600 count sateen.
That makes total sense. And we should also look for chemical safety, right?
Yes, check the tags for the OECOTEX Standard 100 Class 1 certification. That guarantees the fabric has been rigorously tested against hundreds of toxic chemicals, specifically for the sensitive skin of babies.
Good to know. Now let's tackle the biggest debate in baby fabrics right now. Bamboo rayon versus organic cotton.
Oh, this is a hot topic.
It is. Bamboo is incredibly trendy. It's marketed as eco-friendly, it feels incredibly silky, and the data shows it absorbs like 12 to 13% of its weight in moisture compared to cotton's 6 to 9%. Wait, if bamboo is that much more absorbent, shouldn't that make it the holy grail of summer fabrics, since it pulls sweat away so effectively?
You'd think so. But the extreme absorbency is actually bamboo's fatal mechanical flaw.
Really?
Yeah. Bamboo rayon, which is often labeled as viscose or lyocell, it has a unique regenerated cellular structure. When those fibers absorb moisture, the cells physically swell up.
Okay, but why is the swelling a problem?
Because when the fibers swell, the fabric loses 30 to 50% of its tensile strength. It becomes structurally fragile.
Oh. And babies require heavy-duty laundry. Like, if you have a massive diaper blowout at 3 a.m., you are throwing those sheets into a brutal hot water washing machine cycle.
Exactly. And the mechanical agitation of a hot wash cycle will absolutely destroy a swollen, fragile bamboo fiber. You cannot constantly machine wash and tumble-dry bamboo without it rapidly pilling, degrading, and tearing.
So how does organic cotton compare under that kind of stress?
Organic cotton is chemically fascinating. It actually gains strength when it gets wet.
Wait, really? It gets stronger?
Yes. It becomes highly durable. It can withstand intense heat, heavy mechanical agitation, and chemical sterilization without losing its integrity.
Wow.
That durability is the exact reason hospitals exclusively use 100% organic cotton for all their linens. It's a total workhorse fabric.
So cotton survives the washing machine. But whether a parent chooses cotton or bamboo, the ultimate villain in the fabric world seems to be synthetics, specifically polyester fleece.
Oh, synthetics are the worst for this. They are essentially spun plastic fibers. When you put an infant in a polyester fleece sleep sack, you are wrapping them in a non-porous barrier.
So it completely traps their body heat.
And bounces it right back at their core.
Wow.
It undoes all the fan pointing and room cooling efforts you just made. It basically creates a greenhouse effect that is the fastest way to dangerously overheat an infant.
Okay, so we have covered a lot of pristine medical theory, the thermodynamics of room cooling, and the molecular science of fabrics. But I love how the clinical data gives us the what and the why, but it doesn't always tell us how to survive.
Right.
How does any of this survive contact with reality at 3 a.m. when you haven't slept in 3 days? This is where I want to turn to the veteran parents on Reddit for their minimalist survival tactics, because they give us the how.
It's the difference between reading a textbook and actually surviving the battlefield of sleep deprivation.
Exactly. And their first piece of survival advice aligns perfectly with the doctors. Ditch the over-the-counter tech.
Yes.
I found this fascinating. The home cardiorespiratory monitors, the little oxygen tracking socks, the marketing sells you peace of mind. Why do veteran parents hate them so much?
Because legally, the FDA classifies those gadgets as consumer wellness devices. They are not rigorously tested, regulated medical devices.
So they are foolproof.
Not at all. And the veteran parents noted that these gadgets create a profound false sense of security. Parents start obsessively checking the app on their phone, trusting the tech instead of following the actual physical safe sleep rules. It leads to dangerous complacency.
Plus, the Bluetooth drops or the sock slips and the alarm goes off at 2:00 a.m. for literally no reason.
Oh yeah, it absolutely destroys whatever tiny shred of sanity the parents have left.
The next reality check from the trenches was about wardrobe efficiency. You see these beautifully curated newborn outfits online. You know, tiny pants, a matching shirt, little suspenders.
Completely impractical. I mean, imagine trying to thread the floppy, uncooperative limbs of a screaming infant through multiple tiny armholes and waistbands in pitch darkness.
That's a nightmare.
It is. And those separate little scratch mittens, they fall off the moment the baby moves and become an immediate choking hazard loose in the crib.
So what did the veterans agree on as the ultimate uniform?
The two-way zipper pajama with built-in fold-over scratch cuffs.
The two-way zip is genius because if you need to change a diaper, you just zip from the bottom up.
Exactly. You only expose their lower half, keeping their chest perfectly warm and contained. You aren't wrestling them out of a top. It's peak mechanical efficiency for sleep deprivation.
And then there is the burp cloth delusion.
Oh, this is a good one.
You look at these aesthetic online registries, and they gently suggest buying like maybe 4 to 8 burp cloths. The Reddit parents literally laughed at this number.
Because recommending 4 burp cloths shows a fundamental misunderstanding of infant digestion. Acid reflux and spit up are not rare scheduled events.
No.
They are a constant rolling reality of the 4th trimester.
You need volume where it counts. The consensus was 15 to 20 burp cloths, minimum.
Minimum. Otherwise, you are chained to your washing machine doing laundry every single day just to keep up with the mess.
The exact same logic applies to the larger pieces of gear, right? The minimalist survival approach stresses multi-use over single use.
Yes. Instead of buying a beautiful mini crib that the baby outgrows in 3 months and then having to buy a separate travel cot later, just use a pack and play for sleep right from the start.
And those highly breathable muslin blankets we talked about for summer cooling, the veterans use them as stroller shades, impromptu changing mats, and nursing covers. Versatility reduces the mental load.
Because every single use item you bring into the house is just one more thing you have to manage, clean, sanitize, and eventually figure out how to store.
So if we synthesize all of this for you, the listener, the essentials of newborn sleep safety are actually quite minimalist. You don't need a space station of gear. You need a flat, firm, non-inclined surface.
Under 10 degrees.
Right. You need a properly fitted, pre-shrunk cotton sheet. You want natural open weave fabrics to allow for evaporative cooling, avoiding dense thread counts and synthetic plastics. You dress the baby in one layer more than you, and you trust the back of the neck check over feeling their freezing cold toes.
And you can confidently skip the expensive, anxiety-inducing wellness gadgets in favor of high-efficiency basics. I mean, a stack of two-way zipper pajamas and 20 burp cloths will serve you much better at 3:00 a.m.
This deep dive arms you with the exact knowledge you need to confidently ignore aggressive baby marketing. It's going to save you money, it's going to save you time, and most importantly, it's going to save you a tremendous amount of anxiety.
Because knowledge really is the best antidote to parental panic. Understanding the why behind the rules makes them much easier to follow.
It really does. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We spent a lot of time talking about that winter overheating paradox, how our desperate biological urge to warm up a baby with cold hands can actually trigger the exact dangerous scenario we are trying to prevent. If our most basic, hardwired protective instincts can actually put our children in more danger, what other deeply ingrained human instincts might modern science completely turn on their head?